Russian shadow fleet in Danish waters almost daily. Denmark. Over 100,000 fled Sudan's Kordofan since October. UN. Germany advises against non-essential travel to Cuba. Qatar Emir, Trump discuss de-escalation. Venezuelan authorities move Machado ally to house arrest. Tankers from Russia's so-called shadow fleet passed through Denmark's waters almost once a day in 2025, according to data released by the Danish Maritime Authority. The authority said that 292 voyages by oil tankers listed under European Union sanctions were recorded in Danish waters last year. Russia is believed to have assembled a fleet of aging oil tankers with opaque ownership to bypass sanctions imposed by the EU, the United States, and the G7 following Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Those sanctions aim to curb Russian oil revenues by cutting sanctioned vessels off from Western insurance and shipping services. The tankers typically travel from the Gulf of Finland, through the Baltic Sea and into Danish waters, carrying crude oil and refined products such as diesel and gasoline. Their age and poor maintenance have raised concerns about maritime safety and the risk of oil spills. While the overall size of the shadow fleet is difficult to track, Danish authorities said the EU sanctions list, which includes 598 banned vessels, has enabled closer monitoring of ships entering Danish waters. The Danish Maritime Authority said it is working closely with neighboring Baltic Sea countries and has taken additional steps to strengthen maritime safety, environmental protection, and the security of seafarers. More than 100,000 people have fled Sudan's Kordofan region since October, according to the United Nations, as fighting intensifies across the area. Sudan has been at war since April 2023, with battles between the National Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The conflict has killed tens of thousands of people, forced more than 11 million from their homes, and created what the UN describes as one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Figures released Tuesday by the International Organization for Migration show that about 115,000 people were displaced from North, South, and West Kordofan between October 25 and February 5. The UN said the displacement followed more than 80 violent incidents across the region during that period. The surge in fighting came after the RSF shifted its military focus to Kordofan, following its capture of El Fasher in October, the army's last major stronghold in the neighboring Darfur region. Aid agencies warn that continued fighting could push even more civilians from their homes, worsening Sudan's already severe humanitarian emergency. Germany has issued a travel advisory warning against all non-essential travel to Cuba, citing a deepening energy crisis and severe fuel shortages that are disrupting daily life and public services on the island. The German Foreign Ministry said the Caribbean nation is facing an acute energy crisis, compounded by dilapidated infrastructure and a halt in oil shipments that has left many sectors struggling to function. Essential services including medical care, transportation, street lighting, cash machines, communications and security systems are all under strain. Some hotels have already closed, and aircraft from abroad cannot currently refuel on the island, significantly limiting flight operations. The advisory reflects growing international concern over the situation. Other countries, including Swedish Foreign Ministry, have similarly recommended against non-essential travel to Cuba due to fuel shortages and related power outages. Cuba's energy shortage stems from efforts by the United States to cut off oil supplies, particularly from Venezuela, as part of broader sanctions measures. The crisis has led to prolonged blackouts, reduced public transport and cancellations or rerouting of international flights, and has raised concerns about impacts on healthcare and basic services. Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani and US President Donald Trump have discussed de-escalation and security in the Gulf region, Qatar's royal court said, amid heightened tensions between Washington and Tehran. In a phone call, the two leaders focused on regional developments and international efforts to reduce tensions and strengthen security and stability. They also discussed supporting diplomatic solutions to regional crises through dialogue and peaceful means. The call came after the United States threatened possible military action against Iran, even as indirect talks between Washington and Tehran resumed in Oman on Friday. The talks followed the deployment of a U.S. naval group, led by an aircraft carrier, to Middle Eastern waters. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said his country would not give in to what he called excessive demands regarding its nuclear program. Speaking at a rally in Tehran marking the anniversary of Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution, he said Iran would continue dialogue with neighboring countries to promote peace and stability. Pezeshkian also said Iran was ready for any verification of its nuclear activities, and insisted the country is not seeking nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, social media footage showed some residents in Tehran chanting slogans against the Islamic Republic and Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei ahead of the anniversary celebrations. Venezuelan opposition politician Juan Pablo Guanipa has been placed under house arrest shortly after being released from prison, his family and local reports say. Guanipa, a close ally of opposition leader Maria Corina Machado and former National Assembly vice president, had walked free on Sunday after more than 8 months in detention on charges his supporters say were politically motivated. He was detained again within hours after speaking publicly and meeting supporters in Caracas. Venezuelan prosecutors said he violated the conditions of his release. On Tuesday, his son Ramon Guanipa confirmed that his father is under house arrest at their home in Maracaibo, adding that restrictions bar him from leaving or making public statements. "House arrest is still prison," Ramon Guanipa wrote on social media, and he called for full freedom for his father and other political detainees. Guanipa was originally released under a broader prisoner release process the government has been conducting amid international pressure after the capture of former leader Nicolas Maduro by U.S. forces. However, his quick redetention has drawn criticism from opposition figures, who say it highlights continued repression despite assurances of reform. The government has not publicly detailed the specific breach of release conditions, but has sought judicial approval to convert his release into house arrest. Human rights and opposition groups say the case underscores ongoing challenges for political freedoms in Venezuela,